Otakuology podcast with Otaku Mike and Jin Graves.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Otakuology podcast. I'm your supervillain / co-host, Otaku Mike. With me, as always, is my sidekick, Jin Graves. How you doing today, buddy?
Am I a sidekick?
Yeah. For this episode, yes, you are.
Can we not be teammates?
Fine, teammates.
Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to give our group a bad name, and that's when we really will be villains. So, profit.
I have our supervillain name already picked out. Or our team name, I guess you could say.
What is it?
The heterosexual podcasters.
I'm gonna have to leave the show today. You're gonna cover this one by yourself. Goodness. You could have picked a better one.
That just popped into my head because I always say my heterosexual life partner.
We could always joke about it's like our made up D&D group one that we have.
What was that?
The Beardy Bards.
Oh, I totally forgot that was a thing. But okay.
I had somebody joke about it with me the other day. I was like, I forgot it was a thing.
I don't even play D&D, so okay.
Yeah. But what are we covering today?
Today, we are covering something that's somewhat relevant, I guess you could say. A 2021 anime, Super Crooks. 13 episodes on Netflix. Yeah, it's a show about supervillains who are crooks, and they're super.
And it took you forever to watch this one.
It did take me forever to watch this one.
So
it did. It definitely did. But a little info behind this series. Let me see if I can pull it up. Who did this? Was it Studio Bones who did this? Yeah. Studio Bones produced this. If you don't know who they are, they did Full Metal Alchemist and some other stuff that I can't remember off the top of my head. So let me ask you this. This is not an original anime, which I thought it was an original anime like going into it.
Yeah.
Like more like a Cowboy Bebop scenario where they just make something, you know? And I was like, right off the bat, I was like, oh my God, this is not an original anime. I was like, because they show the superheroes at the beginning, and I'm like, this fucking looks like Jupiter's Legacy. That's the fucking Utopian. And I was like, is this fucking in the Jupiter's Legacy universe? And nobody just told me this. And I was like, oh, okay. We're dealing with a comic book adaptation from Mark Millar. Super Crooks is a comic book. And so I was very surprised and taken back by that aspect, because a lot of times American comic books and the Japanese manga anime fandom don't always mix well. Let's be honest. So I was very surprised by this, because we've gotten several adaptations before. We've gotten a lot of the Marvel animes that are hit or miss. Sometimes, we had probably the most successful one to date, which is probably the Witchblade anime, which kind of does its own thing from the comic book, But I was like, oh, okay, this is gonna be interesting. And I text you, and I was like, did you know this was a Mark Millar thing? And you're like, I don't know who Mark Millar is. And it's like, did you know this was based on an American comic book? Right. And you're like, I was like, what rock has Jin Graves been living under?
Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. At least I watched this. It took you like 6 months to even be like, okay, I'll watch this. I will finally watch this. But it was kind of funny, like, hearing all that, because I was like, after you started texting me and stuff, I was like, oh, shit. I said, Mike's going to come into this and be like, man, I love this part, and this part, and this part. Because, I mean, usually if it comes from a comic book and it's presented really well, then you usually rank it pretty high. So I was like, after you said that, I was like, this is getting a high ranking from you.
So it's funny that you mentioned like that we should watch Super Crooks, and I remember
at which point, the 6 months ago or recently?
It was probably 6 months ago because it's funny that you mentioned like us watching it for the podcast, because I was listening to another podcast. And when Jupiter's Legacy, the TV show, came out, the live action show, it came out, and I think like a week after or something, it got canned and canceled.
Like, so how many episodes did it have come out?
It
Not
just had
many?
one. It had one season, one full season. That was it. It's a decently like run comic. Like there's like I don't know how many volumes of it or trade paperbacks, but it's like it ran for a good amount, good chunk of time, and it got canceled. And a show called Super Crooks, right when that got canceled, got greenlit. But it was a live action Super Crooks that got greenlit. So we're also getting a live action Super Crooks eventually. That's separate.
Cool.
That is separate from this show. But
we're gonna have to cover the live action too.
But I'm curious, how much does this go with the comic book? Because the comic book's only like one volume.
Yeah,
I think at this time, because Mark Millar has become. Mark Millar can be a very polarizing individual when it comes to the comic book world. He wrote Kick-Ass, he wrote Civil War, he wrote what's that other one? He wrote this one called Nemesis that's very, very polarizing. He wrote Old Man Logan. He wrote the Ultimates comics, and then he did one other, and I can't remember what it is. Oh, and he did Jupiter's Legacy, obviously. But he's very polarizing. He's very much known. We did Wanted. If you ever watched Wanted, the movie or comic book of Wanted, he did that. And then he like I said, he could be very good or very bad in his writing style, because he several things are in it are ultra violent, sometimes like misogyny and stuff, and he's very much edgelordy in his writing sometimes, especially early Mark Millar. And I was like, oh God, where is this gonna go? What is this gonna land under when it comes to like Mark Millar stuff?
Right.
And I was like, oh man, because he's been known for recently. I think like a year or two ago, he signed a deal with Netflix to have a lot of his stuff become adaptations. So he wrote a lot. He's known for writing stuff and like getting it pitched, or just writing stuff to potentially be a movie or a TV show type of thing.
Yeah.
Not necessarily not necessarily finishing it, but he like will write like almost like a proof of concept type of thing. And I kind of wondered if Super Crooks was almost like a proof of concept, because after the first story arc, I don't know if there's any more Super Crooks like stuff out there.
Yeah.
So I wonder if he just wrote this one thing and like, here, go turn it into an anime or a TV show,
Right. Which I just looked it up. So Super Crooks the Heist only had 4 issues come out for it.
Yeah.
So
it was short. It was a very short run.
Very short run.
Yeah. Oh, excuse me. But anyways, That's kind of my thing that I was doing a little bit of research on it, and I was like, how do I remember the name Super Crooks? Like, it was in my head, but I didn't remember. I was like, oh, okay. This took the place of Jupiter's Legacy because Jupiter's Legacy flopped so hard.
Yeah.
Even though it got pushed like to the moon, I think, with advertising and stuff.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
hilarious.
but this is set in the world of Jupiter's Legacy, and we do get a lot of references to it, especially in the first episode. Um, but you want to start us off with the origin story of our main character. Talk about that.
Yeah, we have our main character, Johnny Bolt, which I just got to say, I love this name.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean it's very catchy.
Mm-hmm.
And we have him as a kid, and we get this kind of weird scene where I think he's watching TV, and he's watching like the Heroes debut
Yeah.
and all this other stuff like that. And
The Union of Justice, they're called.
yeah.
Yeah.
He's watching them, and his mom comes in and says he needs to turn off the TV and it's time for bed. And he's like, it's like early. Well, she has a guy coming over.
She wants to get fucked.
Yes. Which this is kind of where Johnny starts realizing his powers. He gets mad, and the lights flicker and different things like that.
Mm-hmm.
And he starts kind of like, do I have superpowers? I
Yeah.
feel like this whole part right here of the origin story is really like Superman. Like, do I have this? Can I shoot webs?
I don't know if I would say Superman-esque.
I
would
meant
say
Spider-Man. My bad.
I would say because of the stress of the environment that he lives in caused his superpowers to potentially activate. Because I think in the world of Jupiter's Legacy, one of the parents has to have superpowers in order to pass down superpowers. I think it was.
They bring that up too, because he's sitting at lunch with his friend and he goes, well, that bitch shouldn't give me superpowers.
yeah.
Which,
true.
Which, I really enjoy this part though, where he's kind of like flicking the lights on and off on the street.
Yeah.
And he does it, and then he kind of has this part where his mom gets mad at him, and he gets really pissed off, and he starts doing it. He blows up the TV.
She's like, "Turn off the light."
Yeah, and he blows up the TV.
Yeah,
and I think this is the funniest part. If you're gonna watch the intro into any show, this is probably the best one, because the mom's sitting there, and you can tell that she's like on top of this guy, and you just hear him go, "I already came."
Oh, yeah.
I think I got such a tickle out of that because I was sitting there and I was like, "What? No!"
Yeah, because she totally like wants to go down to Bone Town City like so hard with this guy, and he's like this big like biker looking dude. He has like a mustache / mullet combo going on. Like he's like, oh, I just want to, I don't know if they were like boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever, but like his mom is like
it's just a hookup.
His mom was very much like not looking out for Johnny in this scenario. Like,
that's true.
You can tell that he definitely comes from like a bad home.
I do really want to know like who his parent is though.
Yeah, which we never ever get in this. Which I'm curious to see if that possibly happens in the book or the comic, which I kind of want to check out to see how different it is from this, or if it's different at all. Like
add it to your comic collection.
Probably, yeah.
But
probably,
yeah. I mean, his mom. This is the worst part about his mom and all of it. Like, he doesn't like her.
She doesn't like him.
You can tell, like, when they're around, there's always tension.
Yeah,
and it's really funny because if he's around and she's trying to get something fixed, the first thing is, I don't have money for it, but how about I pay you by favors?
But how I pay by sucking your dick.
Yeah, I mean there's a lot of, I think, 2 or 3 guys as we see her kind of do that with, all in the first episode, and it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah. Yeah,
But
totally. But I like the scene where he's flipping all the lights on and off, and doesn't he end up like causing like a blackout?
yeah, yeah, he
Right?
the whole town, I think he ends up blacking it out.
Yeah. But I like the scene next where we meet his friend, and I don't remember what his friend's name is. Because his friend only shows up at the beginning in this episode, and then at the very, very end of the season or series.
Right.
But his friend's
Right,
also
and if you're not paying attention to it, you're gonna miss that it's his friend.
yeah, true. But his friend is also into the superhero stuff, and he tells him about like the Jupiter Legacy characters a little bit. You get a little bit of that origin in there, and then I like the part where they're trying to design his costume, his superhero costume, which is
Yeah,
like Electra Boy or Electric Boy or whatever his name is.
yeah,
That's his superhero costume is funny, and we kind of get we'll just go ahead and go to the crux of this episode where he goes to the pool of all places to be like, I'm gonna be a superhero and get this girl, and this girl's gonna like me because I'm a superhero, and he's gonna be defender of the town. And he kind of starts to learn how to fly a little bit,
yeah. He's
which
trying to
he
make his debut.
but he never uses the flying ability at all, other than this one episode, I think.
That's true.
Like he like makes this weird electric current around him or something like that. I don't exactly know what he does, but he shows up in his costume, and his friend is videotaping him, and the girl kind of notices, oh, there's so and so over there videotaping this guy, and Johnny's like, I'm Electric Kid, and I'm gonna protect the city. And the bully who has been bullying him this whole time, he's like, hey, that's Johnny Bolt. That's Johnny Bolt. He's in my class. And I thought this
Starts
scene
harassing him.
starts harassing himself. I thought scene, this scene was really funny,
Yeah.
where he loses his flight, and he falls into the pool, and I was like, he just like killed all those people.
Oh yeah. Well, the series of events that happens out of it is pretty messed up too.
Yeah.
So you get where he falls in the pool and he like electrocutes everybody. And then you have that, which I think it bounced over to one of the traffic lights.
Yeah.
Then you have like a semi that runs through the gas station and it explodes.
Yeah.
Then it keeps going and runs through the gate into the pool, where
Uh,
pigs fall out of it into the
yeah.
pool and are electrocuted as well.
True.
So,
True.
I mean, when you really sit there watching it, you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, he literally
Because
like
it was just a lot of stuff to happen all at once.
yeah, he literally fries like everybody, and I think he kills like half the pool. I'm not for sure, but he kills a lot of people in this one episode on accident. But
Yeah.
it happened, and
But
he's
I mean,
very
we do know that the bully dies,
yeah. The bully dies, yeah,
because I
and
think he gets electrocuted face first in the pool.
yeah, which is pretty like gruesome. Like
That's true.
that's one thing. Millar is very known for his violence and his
Right.
stuff,
Which,
and
going off of this episode, I don't feel like there's very much that you would feel like would happen. But then as we go further into it, there is way more blood that comes out of the series.
yes, you're definitely right about that. And then so Johnny's like, "Oh, I'm not a good superhero," and he accidentally like short circuits like an ATM out, and he gets money from that, and that's where he decides to become a villain.
Yeah.
And then we we jump we jump into the future where Johnny is in Supermax. He got caught and he's
We jumped like 10 years, right?
yeah, I think it's 10 years. Yeah, because he's an adult.
Yeah,
He,
because
he's
I think he was 16,
mhm.
16 or whatever. It's either 16 or he was 15, and we jumped 15 years.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh,
We jumped to Supermax.
yeah, we jump to Supermax and we find out that there's this organization called the Network, and the Network are a bunch of supervillains who hire other supervillains to do jobs, and the Supermax gets a cut, or the Network gets a cut of the villains' stuff. Like they give
Yeah.
them like all the plans and stuff, and if they
Without
get
getting their hands dirty.
without getting their hands dirty, and yet they run this. Do they run the Supermax prisons as well?
No, they just donate to it.
Okay, because it was
It's one of those.
it was a
It's
weird
one of those.
relationship.
The prison kind of looks the other way because of this,
Or society looks the other way.
and well, and that's the thing, is they don't even bring that up. You know,
Yeah.
if you're not a villain, you really don't know about it unless you're a police officer or somebody in Supermax.
Yeah.
But they bring up the whole aspect of, okay, well, you have this, and basically we still have to have somebody come in. We have to take somebody in,
Yeah.
and that's kind of what the whole front is. Like, they give low rated villains a job, a career to go steal money, and then most likely, unless they're really good, they end up going to Supermax and having to spend out their time there, and then the money that they would have gotten, they give like 80% to the organization.
It's
Which
30%.
they give
It's a
them 30%.
yeah, it's a 30% cut.
Well, I would almost, and only because of the movie Polaris, where they send out like assassin teams to kill off assassins to get their retirement money, basically. I would
Yeah.
almost say that the reason why they send all these guys to jail is to get 100% payout.
That's possibly
That's
true.
probably how it works out, honestly. You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, that's what we have. Which I really enjoyed this part too, because almost every crook or villain in this place, and every police officer, SWAT team
Mhm.
guy, or whatever, is like Johnny's best friend.
Yeah,
I mean,
Johnny knows
it's
them all.
really weird. Yeah, it's really weird.
Yeah.
Him going through and, hey man, what's up?
Yeah, like how's the kids doing type of thing, you know? Yeah.
Yeah.
But Johnny gets out and he meets his girlfriend, which I thought she was the girl from the first episode.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's somebody completely different. Her name's Casey. And
Yeah.
Casey is all over the intro for this show. Most of the intro in this show is just her dancing.
Right. And whatever that song is.
Yeah, whatever that song is. The intro very much reminds me of a Cowboy Bebop-esque intro. With the jazz and stuff. But yeah. So yeah, she comes to pick him up, and the first thing he gets is a good
You
old
know what the
handy.
intro? You know what the intro
What?
kind of reminds me of?
What?
Peacemaker.
I guess a little bit.
With people dancing and everything.
Oh yeah, I get it. Yeah, I can see that. I got more Bebop
Yeah.
vibes from it, to be honest.
Yeah.
Just with like the music and stuff. But yeah, he gets a little hand job in the car, and he's talking about like going legit
In
and
her
stuff
orange truck.
in her orange truck. Because we forgot to mention that this takes place in like America.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah.
I was so like thrown off because I was waiting for like in this show for like them to be like eating like Japanese food or like Japanese styled food and stuff like that,
Yeah.
very much like Japanese influence, but they're still like in America. But no, they're just in America, like
Yeah.
just chilling or doing stuff, like it kind of just threw me off after that part. I don't know why I was just thrown off. I was like I guess I couldn't like grasp it because in my head I was like, okay, this is an anime made by Japanese people, but there's no Japanese influence in this show whatsoever.
Right. There's not even any Japanese American superheroes.
True. True.
So,
Yeah. Anyways, yeah. So he
but
gets out. He gets out. He's gonna have a little bit of sexy time with his girl Casey.
oh boy, yeah, when we get home,
Oh yeah, when we get home,
when we get
the
home
show.
there will be sexy time.
Yes, and sexy time gets ruined by his three goofball supervillain friends who show up and they want a party, which their names are Frostbite. And I forget what the other two are.
One
Bad
of them
luck
is
guy, bad
yeah,
luck guy, and
his name starts with an M.
I forget what his name is. It's like he reminded me of like a Doctor Strange bad luck type of person. And then we have Gimp Suit Tron guy, which he had a name. It's like Telecast or something. I don't remember what his name was.
Yeah, I think that's what it was.
Yeah, but all he said was "yeah."
Right.
That's all he said. But yeah, they show up and they got a job for Johnny, and they're gonna hit like 10 jewelry stores within like a span of like 10 minutes, I think it was.
Yeah.
I think something like
They,
that. And
yeah, they were gonna spend a minute on each one.
but Casey's not really into that. She doesn't want to do that because Casey only takes big jobs with big payouts, so she doesn't have to do it a lot because she's going for her MBA to have an actual life and retire and not have to be a super villain. So, but Johnny's all about that quick score, I guess you could say, and he doesn't really listen to Casey, and he he goes out with the guys on their motorcycles, which I was like, why did
Which
go ahead.
that is something that I want to bring up too,
Okay.
because there is one of the bikes that looks like, hey, it's an old one,
Yeah.
but everybody else has like these high-techy bikes, and I'm like, where the hell did you get the money to buy that?
Yeah, like where was it,
Like, everybody's gonna know who you are.
I mean, yeah. And then like one of them doesn't even drive a motorcycle, he just sits in the side cart.
Yeah, which is funny.
Yeah, but I like when this whole scene was pretty funny. When they're getting away from the cops and using their powers and stuff, and you're like, oh yeah, we got this. And then a super villain does show up. His name's Rubber Ball or Rubber Ball
a
Man.
superhero.
Yeah, he's superhero. That's what I said.
You said supervillain.
Did I say super villain? Okay,
You did.
superhero. Rubber Ball, which is a guy who rolls up into a ball and like bounces and shit. And I was like,
Yeah.
okay, is this where we're going with our superheroes? This is lame.
Yeah, but I do have to say that this does show us a good rendition of heroes in this world, though, because, like, I think at one point they bring up that he killed somebody or whatever because he bounced on him.
Yeah,
and like he's the amount of spin that he has and everything. makes him basically like a mortar round when he hits the ground.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, he's going around, he's hitting cars, he's hitting buildings, he's doing all this. Like, and I really think that that's one of the things. They might blame it on the villains, but the heroes are just as fucking reckless in this and are one step away from being super villains. I mean, people
I
are
would
like,
say
let me take a picture with you.
I would say some of the superheroes are. I don't know about most of them, but I know some of them are.
Yeah, because this
Like
guy
I don't.
was shitty, really
Yeah,
shitty.
he was like a newer superhero. I think he was, and we find out that their superheroes are placed around the United States, and there's no real people where they are in. I think they were in like San Francisco. I think it was.
Yeah,
I
I
think it
think
was
that's
San
what it is.
Francisco. Yeah, and we get this really cool chase scene throughout the city, which I thought was cool. It was very well animated, but I could tell when they would switch from CG to like 2D animation, like it was noticeable at points when they're all like riding on the motorcycles. Like
I
you
don't
could
know if I
tell,
noticed that.
yeah, you can clearly tell when they're uh the characters are CG, or I could tell when the models were CG, and like some of the buildings would go kind of CG a little bit at points. Like it wasn't like smoothly blended in for me at that point. Which it seemed like some of the animation wasn't like up to like that standard that Studio Bones I think has.
Mhm.
But um it was a pretty like drawn out like chase scene. Like I think it goes into like the next episode as well
Yeah,
at that point, right? Where
it
we
go.
meet the
I think it goes in the next 3 episodes.
I can't remember it. It kind of jumbled together. But we meet the Praetorian, who is
What?
a
Can we
super.
back up real quick?
Okay,
I have,
okay,
I have one complaint on this part.
okay.
I thought it was really stupid that the one police officer, they kind of got us invested in
Oh,
him, and then it was
yeah,
like he's not. He didn't even matter.
yeah. No, he didn't matter at
Doesn't
all.
even
No,
fucking matter. And I was
no.
like, is this going to be like, a reoccurring guy that I'm going to be able to be like, oh man, because it kind of made me feel like how this guy was talking, that it was almost like the detective in Lupin the Third.
Like Zenigata.
Yeah, like he's going to be a reoccurring character, and then it was like he crashed his car and that was it. Oh, I spilled my fucking
Yeah,
donut.
yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, what kind of bullshit is this?
Because he was like, "Oh, we don't need those superheroes. We got
Yeah, I mean,
this."
they highly made you feel like you were like this guy's going to stick around for a while. You could invest your time in him, and then they just pulled him out. Like, no,
Yeah,
he's not
yeah.
important.
He's like, no, no. Yeah, it's good, you know. But yeah, we meet the Praetorian, who they said he was from ancient Rome or Greece. Was it?
Yeah,
And he came to the present, and he has over 200 superpowers, and he doesn't know what superpower he's gonna get unless he pulls from like a deck of cards or something. So he has like a superpower a day. Is
yeah,
that what I was gathering?
yeah.
This guy, this motherfucker, sounds like if you took if like a child created a superhero and was like, he has
This is
every
true.
power. He has every power.
Every power he can only use them once.
Yeah, like once a day or something, you know. But I thought this scene was pretty crazy when he shows up. I thought he was kind of a ridiculous superhero,
Yeah,
but I liked seeing his very much like a ruthless superhero, and he like fucking goes to town on them and like doesn't hold back.
well, I also feel like his deck was stacked.
A little bit, yeah.
Because how did he get the four of them and he's like, I'm gonna draw this card, And oh well, it makes me like a multiple man, and so then he
and then
creates like three other versions.
and then like each of my duplicates has their own superpower.
Yeah, each one of them gets to draw a card, and
Yeah,
yeah, I mean, I was like, what the fuck is this shit?
but I want to say, my one critique, and it kind of bugged me, was his outfit. He
Oh
only
god,
had
yes,
one. He only had one knee pad on. I was like, why does he only need one knee pad?
that's true. That is very true.
I was like, that's just very much throwing me off right now. I was like, what if his other knee gets hurt?
Right. I mean, and he is very much a weird superhero. Like
Yes.
you said, with him drawing the cards and everything else like that. I mean, he's just a really weird guy,
Yeah.
and how it turns out, but it was really
Later.
weird how he got all this set of powers and whatnot to be able to defeat them. And
Although,
of
like,
course,
I have to say, when we get to the end of this fight, which is, it's a crazy fight, and they're like not Johnny and the guys aren't doing their best whatsoever. Like I honestly thought they killed off the other three. He killed off the other three guys.
yeah,
That's what I
no, he was
thought
getting
happened.
ready. He was getting ready to.
I thought he like killed them. We get this part where the Praetorian's like, yeah, I'll let you go this time. Everybody gets one, and I was like, what? This is odd. And I was like, what?
Well,
What's going?
can we talk about his fight with Bad Luck Guy? I mean,
Oh yes,
I mean, his fight with all of them was pretty funny, but
yeah,
the I think the real him went after Johnny because that was the only one that didn't have any other powers.
yeah.
But that's another thing is he kind of already had like a super strength ability with him already
Mm-hmm.
because he was a little stronger than your average human being.
Yeah, stronger, faster
Yeah,
type of thing.
and that wasn't anything he had to get out of the cards, So
Yeah,
he kind of did already have like built-in superpowers and stuff, but just how the lineup of powers like happened. The one that didn't have any went after Johnny. The one that could reflect powers back on their user,
mm-hmm.
which he went
Yeah.
after the bad luck guy. Which I love that part. We see fish falling out of the sky,
And
and the guy kind of
he gets attacked by a shark.
he's sitting there and he's like, and you see it on his face. He goes, "Oh fuck!" And then he looks up and there's this shark.
Although I do like when the bad luck guy like would use his powers. I thought that
Yeah,
was pretty fun to see like what would
yeah,
happen. 'Cause,
yeah,
uh, yeah.
yeah.
But
Uh,
we the
then the
the
ice guy, he had fire powers, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's
I
fire
can't
powers.
remember what powers he had when he fought Telecom or whatever his name is.
I don't remember. I don't
Maybe it was
remember what his
super
power.
speed. Maybe it was
I
like
don't
super
remember.
speed. I can't
I,
remember.
I don't remember. But yeah,
But
he.
we found out that Casey had influenced his decision making because
She
supposedly
can.
he didn't let anybody go
Yeah, she can control people's minds and put
or put
illusions
thoughts
into
into
their
it.
heads. Yeah.
Yeah,
So, which I thought was really funny because it came out of nowhere. Because
yeah.
we weren't given any like uh any hints that she had superpowers.
Before this,
Yeah, I think so.
we had one.
Did we?
Yeah, we had one where all the guys are having the party and whatnot, and she goes, "You guys are drunk, right?" And then everybody just instantly whoop,
Uh, oh, okay. I
and
must have missed that.
she pushes them out of the door because they're like, "No, let's get another case of beer. I mean, we could go all night long." And she just puts it into all three of their heads like y'all are already drunk, and they
I
get that
must
little
have
red
missed that.
they get the little red line across their faces that
Yeah.
like you're drunk.
Yeah.
So That's the
The
first time we see her use her power.
the Praetorian lets them go only because Casey like mind controls him,
Yeah.
basically, and lets them go, and they leave, and then we get this part where the Praetorian goes back to the base for the Union of Justice, and the maid is trying to like fucking hit on him, or like the help is, and I
Yeah.
was like, what the fuck is going on? And he's like, I don't know what happened. He's kind of really confused about that, and then kind of goes about his day or whatever. And this is where we get Casey talking to Johnny about a big score, and how she wants to go to her mentor, who is called the Heat, and the Heat has this big plan. He's this old timey supervillain who doesn't have superpowers. He just has like these cool heat guns, which were really cool.
Yeah.
And we move on from that. We go to meet the Heat, talk to him. They get a team together for one big heist, and we meet several characters in this. We meet the Ghost, who is very much like a Shadow Cat Kitty Pryde, where he can go through walls and stuff like that. We meet the Diesel brothers, who have healing factor and possibly have somewhat super strength, or one of them has super strength. It was hard to tell. Um, then who else is in this? I'm
I don't
trying to
know.
remember.
I don't know if they had super strength. I think it was just the fact of they knew that they couldn't really be hurt, so
Maybe.
they could go full salvo and throw cars and stuff just because it was like,
I
hey,
think I think it
if I
was
get
them, and
hurt,
then the other two show up later. The other
yeah,
two, the other two guys show up later, and so what their job is, they're going to break out a prisoner who is TK McCabe, who Johnny knows who TK is, um, and
yeah,
they
because they
go
were in
to
Supermax together before.
yeah, they're in Supermax together, and TK McCabe gets busted by a superhero called the Gladiator, who was on vacation in like Florida, I think, while TK was there, and TK was trying to steal a car. He gets caught, and this is probably one of the coolest scenes in. I thought one of the coolest scenes in the anime, when they go attack the plane
Yeah,
where TK is on, because they're transporting him to Supermax, and we have the Gladiator, who is kind of like a Gladiator Captain America, is the best way I could describe him, but with no shield.
uh, uh, well, he's got super strength and is basically indomitable, but
You
I
mean
feel like there's
invulnerable?
another. Yeah, I feel like there's another character that we've watched that is pretty close to this character. At least how
Who?
he acts and everything.
Who?
It's another show we've covered.
What?
Well, let's just say this: when they make a live action, if John Cena ain't playing the Gladiator, I don't want it
Uh, well, that'll be interesting.
because he is very much uh like Peacemaker. The whole
I
time
could.
I watched this, I was like, "Is that fucking Peacemaker?"
But there's this part where they're going to go transport TK, and he like does like a Gladiator does like a backflip and fucking sits on top of the plane while the plane is like
Yeah.
going. And I'm like,
Well, the guy tells him, he goes, "We got your seat right here, sir," and he goes, "No, I have my own seat."
I
And
have
then he
my own
does
seat.
what you're talking about.
Yeah.
He does what you're talking about, like fucking straddles the plane.
Yeah, and I love this scene where they're going in to try to get TK, and the Diesel brothers come out of the plane. One of them just gets fucking uh, like ripped to shreds by the propellers, and I like when we have Roddy Diesel, which is he's the bigger guy.
Yeah,
He shows up. He has this briefcase with him. I was like, "What's he gonna do with that briefcase?" And the briefcase turns into a fucking like giant spiked hammer. And I was like,
yeah.
oh, that's fucking cool. And he just like fucking like starts fighting the Gladiator, which I thought this fight was really fucking cool.
Yes.
whenever the Diesel brothers showed up, and because they can regrow their body parts and stuff, he started using his body parts to fight the gladiator. He would like beat
Yeah.
him with them and stuff, and I thought that was fucking like the fight was very very well animated. I will say that because they were on top
Yeah.
of a plane and he was swinging with like a whip and stuff all around the plane, and it was a very very intense scene because they kept having to change their plan on the fly because they couldn't get TK out of the plane.
Yeah.
But they end up getting him out of the plane, and they go to I can't remember. I think they go somewhere. I don't remember where they go exactly after this, but they go to
After
like a after TK shows up.
they go to get the last member.
Yeah, who is Forecast, who can change the weather.
They go to like a sky bar or something.
Yeah, it's like a bar and like a skyscraper. And like, where are we gonna go? And they're like, we're gonna attack the Union of Justice and steal a specific helmet for a guy, which his name was like Orlock, I think his name was.
Yeah.
I can't remember exactly what his name was.
I think that's what his name
And
was.
it was like Orlock, Count Orlock or something. And he has a
Yeah.
special like he was almost like a Dr. Fate type of character where he had like
He was.
the magical helmet. And
Yeah.
we find out that him, Orlock, Heat, and the Bastard ran a super group together. And the what are they called? The Crooks, they're like freaking out because I forget what his name is. They called him something. Was it Mastermind or he like read minds?
Yeah.
Do you
I think
remember?
that's what the guy's name was.
He's supposed to be at the Union Justice Tower, and he could read minds for miles. And they're freaking out because they don't want him to
Yeah.
figure it out.
He
And they're
can
like,
he can read minds for 30 miles,
yeah,
I think is what it is. And the only reason they were at the bar that day was because he was in like Australia or something doing a peace conference.
yeah. And they're gonna go steal this helmet. They have a plan to steal the helmet. They're all they kind of go back and forth on whether or not they're in or out. They go to steal the helmet. The plan goes awry because they go into the vault, and then everything in the vault is fake. And like, oh,
Yes.
we have a second vault, a second
Yes.
vault that
And
houses all of our actual stuff.
this is where the Praetorian's like, I'm just going to tell all of our information.
Yeah, I'm going to tell our
L-
information, and then there's this
Let me
part where
fight you again.
yeah, let me fight because the Praetorian shows up. Oh my god, that's one thing I didn't like is the Praetorian always shows up to be like the bad guy in
Yeah.
this. Well,
Even though he's a hero.
essentially the bad guy, but he is technically a hero.
Right. Which, like I said earlier, I mean, this is like one of those shows where even though very much we're like dealing with characters that are supposed to be villains, they act more like heroes than the heroes do.
They're very much like likable. Like
Yeah.
later on we get in the episode in the season they mention that they don't kill people. Like the
Right.
villains don't kill people. I didn't know that throughout the entire show. Like I
Right.
was like, oh, that's the one rule that they live by is they don't kill people.
Right.
But
Which I like what was going on with this because we do have where the zombie guy comes back or supposedly comes back and it's
the
like a zombie
necromancer.
outbreak. Yeah.
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 They're in
And
like
then it's like a zombie outbreak
yeah,
at a
they're in
shopping mall.
I think they're in like Pittsburgh.
I think
But
so.
it's really just TK moving all the dead bodies.
Yeah, TK and Forecast.
to get the Union of Justice out of the tower, which I mean, I thought this scene was very well animated, but I didn't think we really needed to see the Jupiter Legacy characters.
Yeah.
Like, I don't care about them. Like, I didn't think we needed
Yeah.
them. You could have just said, "Hey, oh, they're off doing something at this moment."
Yeah.
You know, I didn't think we
I
needed
don't know.
to.
Maybe there was like a deal that was cut with that they had to be
Maybe,
like seen in it.
maybe I don't know. Who knows? But
But
I thought this one scene was pretty funny where they're Forecast and TK are like sitting on top of a building watching this happen, watching the supposed zombie outbreak happen, and then the gladiator shows up right in front of him. He's like, "Citizens, you shouldn't be around here. This is very dangerous." And like TK like freaks out, kind of. He's like, "Oh
yeah,
shit!
because
Oh
that's who
shit!"
caught him before.
Yeah, like, "Oh shit! Oh no!" But the gladiator
Yeah.
doesn't remember him.
Right.
I thought that gag was pretty funny. That was funny. But
Yeah.
their heist goes terribly wrong. And
Well, and the other thing I couldn't tell on this one part was, did he really get the necromancer dug up and alive, or was TK really controlling all of these guys?
he was controlling all of them.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's a point where where the what's his name? Oh god, Utopian and Necromancer are supposedly fighting because they're like enemies. They're like sworn
Yeah.
enemies, or he's like one of the Utopians like bad guys. Um, they mention, and which will lead into this. So Ghost gets the helmet, and they're barely surviving Praetorian's attack at this point. Praetorian has killed several people because he gets laser eyes, and they 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 like teleport out. When they teleport out in Pittsburgh, TK and
Does he get
Forecast,
laser? Does he get laser eyes in this one?
yes,
I thought he had the water powers.
he gets water powers and he gets laser eyes because he starts killing people who are just bystanders with the laser eyes. He like cuts them up and stuff at this point.
Okay.
Yeah, and because there's somebody filming him, and
I
he
think
like
this is one of the things that threw me off whenever, because he's only supposed to have one power a day.
I think he like draws from the deck or something. He draws 2 cards instead of 1.
Yeah.
And he's like, "Oh, I got water powers. This is a low level power." And he's like, "Oh, I got laser eyes now." And so when after Ghost gets the helmet, which the magical word to activate the helmet is supercalifragilisticexpialidocious,
Right.
which I thought was funny as fuck.
Yes.
Uh so when TK and Forecast leave, the Utopian is still fighting, and you can see the zombies kind of go a little limp. So he was controlling all the zombies, like moving their bodies and stuff.
Yeah. Limp.
Yeah. Like you can see, like it's in the fight. You can see it. Like he just stops fighting.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean it was a cool fight, but like I just thought it was kind of not needed. Like you could have maybe done something else. I don't know. Who knows, you know.
Yeah. I mean, it was just some grandiose thing to get the Union of Justice or whatever away from their tower. So
Yeah. Yeah. And so they end up going to Count Orlog's place, which is in like Romania. They're celebrating they got the helmet, and then they get double crossed. The bastard and the Praetorian are working together. They take the helmet and like basically like leave basically.
yeah.
Uh
Which again, this is another part I felt like was wasted, because we kept having this weird scene where it's kind of like we're seeing the characters down from the roof or from the ceiling. And then later
Yeah.
on, we find out that it was Count Orlok, and he comes down, he kind of surprises everybody, and the bastard just automatically.
Yeah, because he hates surprises.
Yeah. So I was
And
like, well, that
Orlok
was a waste.
Orlok is like a trickster. He's like a jokester, a trickster kind of person.
Yeah.
Like he likes playing jokes on people and stuff and like scaring them, you know.
Yeah. And I think the only reason why he's able to do that is because he didn't have his helmet yet.
Yeah. Yeah. But after that is when we jump 5 years into the future, right?
Yeah, I believe so.
If
And
I remember.
Johnny and Casey aren't together.
No, they are together. No, they go to. No, sorry. So everybody like no. So everybody like kind of goes their separate ways, and Johnny and Casey are gonna get married because Johnny proposes to Casey, and he decides to have a bachelor party with his friends and goes on a crime spree, gets locked up, and then we get
Yeah.
the 5 year jump.
Yeah.
Yeah, and so we have a 5 year jump. We find out that Carmine, who is the Heat, is at a casino run by the Salamander because the Salamander was a person who helped out the Bastard. The Bastard
Yeah.
has retired,
Yeah.
and he's basically trying to trick the casino into getting a bunch of money. He now owes the Salamander like $100 million, I think it is. He has to get $100 million in like 30 days. And he goes to Casey and Johnny. Johnny gets out and goes to see Casey, and Casey's life is kind of falling apart after what happened
Right.
with Johnny leaving. She gets sexually harassed by her professor at school. Excuse me.
Accidentally uses her power on him.
Yeah, stuff like that, you know. Gets expelled, so she's working at a diner. Carmine, the Heat, shows up, and he's like, "Oh, I need your help." So Johnny goes to try to get the crew together for one official last score.
Yeah.
And so he goes to get everybody is back on board and whatnot, and we get another new member to the Super Crooks, which I thought this part was fucking hilarious. When they go, so we're like, oh yeah, we got to get one more person, and so Johnny is like on a date, and I'm like, what's going on here? Who's this guy? And Johnny is pretending to be into dudes, and we meet this guy who is cheating on his husband. Turns out it's the Gladiator, and they
Yeah.
blackmail the Gladiator into helping them come on and help and basically stealing all this stuff from the Bastard.
Yes.
I thought that was like fucking like I did not expect that to happen. Like I was like, what the fuck? Like what the fuck is going?
Oh yeah.
I was like,
mean,
oh.
it was fucking amazing. I'm just gonna say that.
Yeah, because nobody else knew about this, but Johnny knew about it. Like somehow Johnny got information in Supermax that the Gladiator was cheating on his husband, hooking up with other dudes, and stuff like that. And
this does become more prevalent that we do know that the Gladiator is a gay guy.
Yeah.
And so this is kind of a big thing because we also have the infidelity and other stuff, which kind of plays into how our ending for the Gladiator happens.
Yes. In which everybody else is shocked about this. Like, they're like, what? I think just like the audience is shocked that all this is happening. So they go to the island. They Casey and one of the Diesel brothers, Roddy, goes as like scientists, and they want to build a time traveling machine. So they kind of distract the Bastard into to this plan while the others are trying to get into the facility itself, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to take this part?
Where they get into the facility?
Yeah.
They get in there, and the Gladiator is fighting the Praetorian. Which, do you remember what power he had at this point?
I don't remember what power he had, but they all get new costumes, which is pretty cool as well.
Yeah. Which,
And
the other weird thing is how the Praetorian kind of brings up that he knew the Gladiator was gay.
did he?
Yeah. Because he said something, and they're like really close up to each other, and the Praetorian says something to him, and it really
Oh,
gets
he
the
says
Gladiator pissed off.
so the Praetorian turns out has been working on both sides, and like everybody else finds out about this. Like all the normal people find out about this, and then we have that fight with the Praetorian and Gladiator, and the Praetorian doesn't know who he is because he's wearing a different costume. He's like, I'm a real fucking hero, and he takes off his mask. That's when he finds out it's the Gladiator.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we get this cool scene where they're trying to like deactivate the superpower suppression thing, which is pretty cool. But that whole
Yeah.
ordeal with the ninjas and all that, because they don't have their superpowers, and that one's really intense. I love the scene where we're kind of jumping around in this last point where they're going down a hallway, and the hallway is guarded by this thing called like the chainsaw laser or something. And
Yeah.
the Diesel brothers are racing to see who can regenerate fast enough and hit the button.
Yeah.
I thought this was one of the most fun scenes in this movie, in
Oh
this
my
show.
god, it was.
In the show.
And you just hear him laugh in the hallway. Ha ha! Ha!
You know?
Yeah.
Like, oh, I got
Yeah.
this one.
Yeah.
Yeah. But it's funny because you keep seeing them like regrow, and they're losing more and more clothes as they go on. Like, are they gonna be fucking naked as we get to the end of this? But there's one part where at one point Rod Diesel has two heads growing out of him. He has like a separate head. And I'm like, oh, and then like that, did they just cut? I don't know what happens to it, but like that second part of him's not there anymore. Like the second head, which is funny. It very much reminds me of like the laser hallway from like Resident Evil, the movie.
That's true.
You ever seen? Yeah, but that was funny. Every time they came on screen, they were always fun to see because the regenerative power was very well animated.
Well, and I really liked where him and Casey dressed up as like a doctor and somebody trying to get money paid towards them for something.
Yeah, it was for the time machine.
That was hilarious.
Yeah, he was for the time machine. And then it turns out he is actually like college graduate, and like he went to Princeton or Harvard, and the time machine plans were actually his.
Yes.
We find that out later. So he was actually like really, really smart. Which I was like, oh, I didn't expect that, but okay, yeah. But we get this scene where, they're all fighting and trying to get this suitcase, which is like a suitcase, and it's like like a sort of like an infinite bag of holding where he just keeps putting stuff in it, like money in it.
Yeah.
So you like open it up and it's like looks like Scrooge McDuck's money bin,
Yeah.
his money safe, but it's a briefcase. And they get the briefcase, and we find out that the bastard and Praetorian captured Casey because she's like, I already did my half part of this job. I'm leaving. When she puts in his head, like she when we find out later, it's all an illusion, but he's holding her hostage. And I didn't like the pervy guy. The pervy butler guy was fucking creeping me out.
Oh yeah. Well,
oh my god.
But yeah, I mean, we knew that it was kind of a situation thing with that because he was like, oh, I always get the bastard scraps, and you're like,
Yeah.
the fuck?
Yeah, that was fucking weird. But I like what happens to where uh the bastard's talking to what you think is Casey, but is actually the creepy guy tied up in the chair. And he like
Yeah.
blows up her head, but he blows up the guy's head. And I'm like, did he just actually kill her? I'm like, oh wait. No, he didn't kill Casey. You can't kill Casey. And which
Right.
I thought was pretty crazy. Like, how did like what? I was like, how did they pull that off? Like, how did she pull that off? Because it's not like she like mind controls him like right when she sees him. I
Right.
think it was, but they get away.
Because she put him in like a hole or something too, right?
He was in
I know she had him go to the shrine.
the cave. It was a cave.
Yeah. Yeah. His
Yeah,
meditation cave.
yeah. So they get out and
Although I do have to say, even though it was a little fucked up, I did like this part where the monk's standing there after he comes back to reality,
and he
and
fucking kills him.
and he's like, just like blows his head up, and because he's like, I'm trying to be a better person. Yeah, no, yeah, it was just funny.
Yeah,
Because that's why he goes to the island. He tells you like he's trying not to be the bastard anymore. He's trying not to use his powers and all that other stuff. He's trying to live a much better life, and it goes weird.
yeah, yeah. No, it does. It does. But they get away. They all split the money. Um, Gladiator ends up telling his superhero husband that he's been cheating on him, which makes him a better person and strengthens their relationships.
Yeah.
The relationship that they have together, which is weird. And what else happens? So yeah, Roddy,
The bastard takes back over,
yeah, the bastard takes back over.
and I think he kills the salamander off.
He does kill the salamander off.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like everybody kind of goes their separate ways. Johnny and Casey end up possibly getting married for real this time and actually becoming. Does Johnny become an actual superhero at the end of it?
I don't think so. I think they just retired.
Okay, because I was under like the impression that he might have become a superhero after it
I
because
don't think anybody did.
he sends like the book to his friend who's a reporter. He's a newspaper reporter, and he's like, "Oh my god, they were wearing the costume and stuff." So that's why I thought he might have been a superhero. I don't know.
Yeah.
But everybody kind of goes their own ways and does their own thing, and that's kind of how our show ends.
Yeah.
But what? Go ahead.
I thought it was pretty good how everything was kind of tied up with a bow.
Yeah, it wraps everything up nice and neat. Like I don't think there's gonna be another season of this.
Probably not.
Even though it says season 1, I don't think we're gonna get more of Super Crooks unless he makes more Super Crooks comic books.
This is true.
But, because everything ends. There's no open endedness to this.
Yeah, and I really think though, well, what people didn't know, if you don't watch it, you don't see it, is that all the suits and costumes and stuff they had were actually related to a picture that was in the Salamander's office of somebody from, or heroes and villains, or somebody from the past.
Yeah.
So it was funny, I guess.
Yeah. So what did you think of this overall?
I really enjoyed it.
Uh-huh.
I think it was very well done. I like how even though we only had 13 episodes, that it kind of seemed like nothing was lost in translation or whatever, because even though we had like these three big kind of heisty parts, or three or four big heisty parts, that they were all kind of like done, set up, and went in a good way. That's really about it. I feel like the only other problem that I would say that I would have with it is the Heat put his name on everything, and I was so confused how nobody
I
knew.
thought that was fucking funny.
Nobody knew who he was or where he was. It was like,
it was like the Heat cleaners, the Heat hot dogs.
yeah, everything said the Heat on it. And I'm like,
The Heat.
if that's not like a red flag to be like, hey, buddy, this is me over here. You know,
I think people just forgot about him because he was an older villain. Because even Johnny didn't know about him.
Right, which was weird because they were like, well, right when people start forgetting about him, then he comes back.
Yeah, and then he leaves and comes back, and stuff like that. So I did enjoy this show, which is surprising because I don't like a lot of Mark Millar's stuff.
Yeah.
The only one that I really have loved or liked, I liked the original Kick-Ass books, Kick-Ass book, and I liked Old Man Logan. Other than that, like, I don't really care for Mark Millar that much. But I thought this was very well done. It does make me want to check out the comic book that it's based on. I liked that we got an adult anime. And I kind of like that we didn't fall on like a lot of the anime tropes and gags that we would normally get. It was very much a nice refresher to see that, hey, you can adapt something that's not a manga, and have it like succeed and become popular. And it's very much an anime that does not pull its punches when it comes to the violence and stuff like that. Because we didn't even like reference the stuff where there was like the whole like the white supremacist stuff towards the beginning of the book with like ghosts and stuff like that, and like it is very there are some questionable things in here with the whole Mark Millar and stuff what he does, but I don't think it takes away from the story itself. It is very much an adult title. This is not for kids whatsoever. my kid would come in and I would have to pause it. I'm like, I gotta pause it because I was watching it over the week. I'll watch a little bit here and there. I there were points I thought I did not like the Praetorian at all. I kind of wish there were more superheroes that they would fought. They only really fought 2 superheroes in this, really, or no, 3 technically. But I thought it was a really nice.
I think Johnny and his crew fought more guys, but with the Heat team, there was only one that they fought.
Yeah, but I thought it was
we had some C, like D and C ranked heroes.
Yeah.
I mean, we had that big giant guy.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that guy. I totally forgot about that guy.
Because they send in like 3 or 4 of them, but the Rubber Ball Man is like a B rank,
Yeah,
everybody else is a D or C.
I forgot about the huge gargantuan guy that they fought. But I felt like it was a very solid adaptation. I would like to see more American comic books adapted into anime, because I've seen like pictures of like the comic books, and it seemed the character design seems a little close to the comic book. In that aspect, it's not like drastically changed and is in like a traditional anime style, I guess you could say. Like nobody really has like crazy hair and stuff like that, or like Everybody seems like to be like normal looking characters. They all have
Right.
distinct looks, distinct powers, stuff like that. I thought the anime was very well paced. Uh, we have our beginning, middle, and end. I didn't feel like there was a lot of fat or filler in this show at
Yeah.
all. At all, I did not feel like that.
This is true.
Um, I thought the voice acting was actually very well done. The dub is pretty good.
Yeah.
I like the dub. The jokes were funny. I had subtitles on, and I wanted to see like what if the subtitles like matched the dub, and sometimes they didn't, sometimes they did. It was just fun
Yeah.
to see. But yeah, all in all, I had a fun time with this show. A surprisingly fun time with this show.
So what would
Uh,
you rate it out of 5?
Out of 5, I would give it a 5.
Okay.
Like, I had a fun time with this show. I had a fun time
That's
with
good. That's good.
Yeah, like this would probably be a show that I would probably show somebody who didn't know anything about anime. Because it's so
Right.
much based, just like Cowboy Bebop, how it's more based on like Western stuff, like
Yeah.
movies and stuff like that. I feel like this could possibly, I'm not saying it will, but possibly get more people to watch anime because it is set in America for the most part, other than the ending where they go
Yeah.
to Japan, or they go to an island off of Japan.
Right.
You know, it's definitely one people can get into. I mean, it's about superheroes and bad guys. Honestly, what's
Yeah.
more American than superheroes and bad guy and villains?
That's
Uh,
true.
it's not bad. If they got a second season, I would be highly surprised if they did. Because I remember
That's
when
true.
this show showed up, people were talking about it and it became really popular. And now it's kind of like I don't hear people talking about it. So I wonder if it was just a flash in the pan, or if it just, I don't know.
Yeah.
One of those ones that showed up and died off, or if it's still like low key, like popular. I'm curious about that. Exactly.
You know what? I bet low key it'll come back and we'll make it popular.
Who knows? Who knows? But
That's
I
true.
did.
That's true.
I did enjoy this series, I guess you could call it, because I don't know. We don't know for getting another one.
Yeah, because
Yet.
Jin gets another one in the basket. Mike likes. Pichu.
I mean, Darwin's game was okay. I wouldn't say I necessarily liked it.
Hey, buddy, you gave it a
And
passing score.
you
Pichu.
chose Bubble, and I hated Bubble.
Hey, buddy, I brought up Bubble, and it was just because of the hype. So
Bubble sucked.
I know I gave Bubble a lower score than you did.
Yeah. What would you rate this?
I would say probably a 4.9.
Why a 4.9?
I still had a feeling like there was something missing, but that's
Okay,
it. Like there
that's
wasn't
reasonable.
there, and it isn't, and there wasn't really, probably like what you said. Like I would have preferred there to be like more superhero fights.
Although if we did that, I feel like possibly it might drag out the show, and it might have made it worse. I don't know.
Right.
Who knows? Because it was definitely a show that I wouldn't want to drag out.
That's true.
Because I hate it when shows get dragged out. I hate that when that happens. Because you can tell, like, you start to lose momentum and stuff like that. But let me ask you this: because of this show, would you go check out the Jupiter Legacy stuff, like the comics and the show?
Yeah.
Like, would you go like pick up the comic book and read it?
I might watch the show. I don't know if I would really pick up the comics for Jupiter. I'd probably pick up the one comic for Super Crooks
Okay.
just to see if there were any differences.
So even though Jupiter's Legacy isn't a full story, like the TV show isn't a full story.
Yeah, I mean, just back context for the Utopian and stuff like that.
Yeah. So you wouldn't want to cover the comic book for the podcast?
Not if it's going to be the same.
I meant Jupiter's Legacy.
Oh, probably not.
I think you might like it.
Probably not. I feel like I would have more fun with like The Boys Are Invincible over Jupiter, just from what we saw off of this one with Utopian and things like that.
Yeah.
Like probably the only fight I would really be interested in is what power could the Necromancer bring into it if he was really alive.
Okay.
But,
all right. Well, yeah. This was a fun episode.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
fun.
We hope that you guys will check it out. Check this episode out. Let us know.
Yeah. Oh, wait. I forgot. Hold on. Pause it for a second. All right. So we have a couple of 5-star reviews, and we're going to shout them out right now. And thank you for leaving and listening to our podcast. You can leave a review on Apple or Spotify or Audible. We got one is Evo Dio. He said, good insight. I recently started reading light novels. This podcast has encouraged me to read more mangas. So thank you, Evo Dio, for that one. And we have Kikui99. I hope I pronounced that properly. It says fantastic, fabulous, fantastic, fanerific. Thank you for that as well. Then we have Mr. Apollo Lewis said best podcast in the world. He rated us 5 stars. Then we have this one. This one's from you.
Whatever.
Jen Graves rates the podcast 5 stars. Nerd podcast. This podcast is great. It's a great starting out podcast by 2 friends. I can't wait to hear more of the topics they talk about. I had a fun time listening. So thank you to all the people who left us 5-star reviews. If you want to leave us questions or ask us something in those 5-star reviews, you can. It really helps us grow our podcast and reach out to more people. Rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you leave your mostly on Apple and Spotify, really. But thank you. It really helps us out in the long run, grow our podcast. We want to get into the top 100 of the podcasters. The podcasters,
That's true.
If you have a question or concern, or you want to talk to us, you can DM us on our Instagram at Otakuology Podcast or on our Twitter, Otakuology Podcast. If you want to leave us email, you can do so at otakuologypodcast@gmail.com. All one word. Leave us a suggestion, whatever. Just want to chit chat. Most definitely come and check us out. But thank you for listening, and we'll see you guys next Tuesday. Have a fun time.
See you next Tuesday.
Bye.